understanding of what roles you can play to ensure that we are getting government to do the right things when it comes to getting that simple thing called petrol running smoothly in this country, the whole oil sector. We'll be discussing that with my guest in a short while if you don't go away. Yes, welcome back. My guest today is Mr. Gabriel Ogbechie. It's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Adesuwa.
And I just said, normally I get people to catwalk into my set. But this one, engineer, I don't want wahala. Let him sit down quietly. I'm glad that you accepted to do this because typically people, especially people in the oil marketing sector where you're operating, don't like to discuss things like this because it sounds political. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true. Rather keep quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be misquoted, most importantly.
Okay, so I guess you trust that we won't misquote you. This is live, so there's no cutting or not cutting anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, now I just wondered though, you ended up being an engineer. Was that by accident or intentional?
When I was in secondary school, I was the best in maths in my school.
This is not posing.
No, not posing. I was in love with mathematics. I made a clean A1 in maths. I mean, that kind of A1 that it's very, very high A1. So I was in love with calculation. Just tell me anything, calculate. That was what used to make me happy. As a matter of fact, when I was in secondary school, when I'm not happy, I go solve maths problem. That was what used to give me a high. So that I had to do engineering was given. So I went to the University of Benin, and I took a degree in production engineering, and I graduated in 1987.
With the 2-1 I read?
Yeah, I made a 2-1. Yeah.
Okay, but you started your career in consulting.
Well, not really. I did my youth service in Kano, 1987, 1988. My first job was actually working in a factory as a factory engineer.
Oh, not Price Waterhouse?
No, from there, because I did my youth service in Kano, that was the first job that came my way. But I always wanted to be in the heart of the economy. So at the first opportunity, I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I spent some time before I took up a job with another oil marketing company, Ascon Oil. I was with Ascon Oil from 1992 to 1997, and then left Ascon Oil in 1997.
To set Rainoil?
To found Rainoil.
Rainoil or Rainoil?
Rainoil, one word.
Why one word? What's the difference between Rainoil and Rainoil?
Incidentally, very interesting story. In 1994, when I decided to, when I started thinking very seriously about doing something for myself, my wife and I went to meet a friend of ours who is a lawyer and a pastor one evening. So NFR, we needed to incorporate a company. We want to run an oil company. So the question now was, what name do we give to the company? Mm-hmm. So it was, oh, why don't you call it Gab Oil? Why don't you call it this oil? Why don't you call it that oil? And NFR said, wait a moment, rain stands for blessing. So why don't you call it rain oil? And I said, NFR, you know what, you're right. But instead of rain oil, we're going to make the rain and the oil together to get one word, which was Rainoil Limited. And that was how Rainoil Limited was incorporated in 1994. And to be honest, I think it was quite prophetic because Rainoil just got up and ran.
And ran. It's been about 16 or how many years now?
19 years now. Okay, we'll be 20 next year.
Oh, that's interesting. What was it about? When you talk about oil marketers, they operate in the downstream sector.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means.
Well, the downstream, the oil industry as a whole is divided into upstream, midstream, and downstream. Upstream essentially deals with crude oil. The downstream deals with the refined petroleum products. Anybody who sells refined petroleum products, petrol, diesel, kerosene, people who operate petrol stations, people who have tank farms, I mean, all that are people who play in the downstream. Mm-hmm.
Where's the midstream? Is that where we're...
Well, the midstream is the interface between the upstream and the downstream. So you talk of the refining process.
Absolutely.
The refineries are essentially the midstream.
So, I mean, from my understanding, I want to behave like a real nitwit here because there are many people who just believe fuel gets into your car that way. If this is what you painted for me, means that midstream is very crucial to ensuring that the petrol gets to us.
Yes, definitely. At
a rate, because I mean, the typical thing we'll hear is, petrol live my papa backyard. I've got petrol right here. We are sitting on crude oil. How come we don't have petrol flowing freely?
Well, Nigeria is one of the top crude oil producers in the world. Unfortunately, we've not over the years, invested adequately in refining. There are 4 refineries in this country. There's the Warri Refinery, the Port Harcourt Refinery, the Kaduna Refinery, and the second refinery in Port Harcourt as well. These refineries combined have a total capacity of about 445,000 barrels per day. Unfortunately, the newest of all these refineries, the Port Harcourt Refinery, the newest of them was commissioned in 1989. That's 27 years ago. So in the last 27 years, we've not invested in refining. We've not been able to increase our refining capacity. Now imagine the population growth we've had over the last 27 years. People who were not even born 27 years ago all have cars on the road now. So, and again, even if all these refineries work at 100% capacity today, they'll barely meet 30% of our national demand. So we found out that even though we have a lot of crude, the bulk of the petrol we consume in this country still have to be imported. So a lot of the challenges people face today is due to the challenge of importing this fuel and distributing it and ensuring that we have petrol in the petrol station.
But we do know that the oil marketers have a very crucial role to play in this whole sector because they're the ones that the interface between the refineries, wherever it's coming from, and those of us who use it. Now, and people blame the oil marketers constantly for not doing the right thing. They are hoarding petrol. They're trying to frustrate government right now by making it as difficult as possible.
That is definitely not correct. The oil marketers are playing a very crucial role in ensuring that you get fuel into your car. It's the oil marketers who have built the petrol stations across the country, whether it's in Lagos, whether it's in Abuja, whether it's in Asaba, whether it's in Kano. If you go across this country, as at the last count, there are more than 27,000 petrol stations spread across the country. These are all investments that private marketers have made in the system. There are more than 149 tank farms in this country. NNPC or the government own only about 22 of them, so which is like 20% of the tank farms in the country.
Tank farms are where the petrol is stored.
The petrol is stored. So the marketers have made a lot of investment in the downstream sector. As a matter of fact, if not for the investment which the marketers have made, I wonder how we'll be able to get fuel into our cars.
When you say investment, there are stories of marketers claiming to have brought in fuel that doesn't even exist, and over-padding and pretense and all of that.
Well, like you said, those are stories. They are just what they are. They are stories. Yes, in 2010, 2011, it is alleged that a lot of things went on. Government looked at all that, but they largely remain in the realm of speculation. But by and large, marketers add a lot of value to this system.
So tell me what's happening right now. Apparently, most of the importation is done by the NNPC up until today.
By default, yes. Historically, marketers import about, historically, NNPC imports maybe about 40%, and then marketers import about 60%. That's how it's always worked. But what has happened is that in the last year or so, there's been a lot of challenges. We're getting foreign currency to be able to import the fuel. If you want to import fuel into this country, for example, as a marketer, you go to, maybe you talk to the foreign trader who is maybe based in London or based in Geneva or based abroad, who gives you a pro forma invoice. Say you want to bring in 10,000 metric tons of petrol, which is going to cost you, say, $6 million. Then you go to your bank, who has to open a letter of credit in favor of the trader so that he can give you the product, and then you sell. But what now happens is that historically, you go to the local bank who has to open a letter of credit to the foreign trader. The foreign trader insists that a foreign bank, a first-class European bank, will have to confirm that letter of credit. Not a problem. They shoot the LC. The foreign bank confirms the letter of credit. They give you the goods. 45 days or 30 days or 60 days, depending on what your terms are, the foreign bank pays the foreign trader, say $6 million, for 10,000 metric tons. You bring in the product, you sell it in Naira, you take the Naira to the bank is now supposed to buy the dollar and pay back the foreign bank.
So that's where the problem is. I'll take a break. I must take a break now. Let people chew on that. The most important thing is they are very vital. The oil marketers are vital. But when I return after this break, if you let me go on this break, I'll return and get people to understand also the intricacies about the pricing of petrol. We'll be right back with Mr. Ogbechie, talking deregulation when we come back. Yes, welcome back. I seem to have been taking Mr. Ogbechie too far from where Nigerians want to hear, because we sent a tweet out for people to say what they want to, they would rather have him discuss. But before I respond to some of the questions I have here, I would like Mr. Ogbechie to finish addressing this issue of dollar. You're telling me it's because of the dollar that we're suffering what we're suffering right now in Nigeria?
Yes, what has happened is that lately it's been difficult for the banks to now be able to use the naira which we have given to them to buy the dollar to pay the foreign suppliers. So lately it's been difficult for the banks to now open fresh LCs so that marketers can bring in petrol. So that is why NNPC had to come in to fill in that gap, because marketers were struggling to bring in the petrol because of lack of dollars.
They still are?
Well, yes. Most of the fuel you see in the country today is imported by NNPC, even though lately they've fallen back to see what kind of assistance they can give to the marketers to be able to source this dollar through the CBN or through their own channels so that marketers can import and help out in solving the crisis.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for enlightening us, mugus like us. And what we want to see is petrol at a price that we can buy. People are paying 400 naira in some places. So thank you for watching. It's been Seriously Speaking. And this oil marketer says deregulation is the way to go. We never know what's going to happen. But then, that's our thought for today. We'll see you again next week. Bye.